And welcome to the latest and greatest from Step Brother Sports, part of the Hockey Podcast Network, and now also part of the Bills Mafia Buffalo fan base platform. You can listen to us anywhere where you find your podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review, all those other great engagement functions you can do for us. Really appreciate it on any of the platforms that we are on. Follow me, Chris Maz, on social media platforms at CFMAZ, and Shawnee V at SV The Don NHL, and on YouTube at Step Brother Sports. Folks, we're really happy. It is literally Christmas in July. Football is back. 2 days of training camp have now passed by for the Buffalo Bills. Hard Knocks filming away. Trailer's already been released, hyping things up for fans to see. Fresh off a spectacular time at MafiaCon also this past weekend to ring in the new season as well. I want to give some shout-outs and thanks to Del Reed, 26 Shirts, Zach Sheldon, Trainwreck Sports, all those folks that were involved in making it a great day. Was a hell of a celebration for the Bills and the city of Buffalo. We could not have enjoyed it more. Also, with that, we are officially at a milestone. Today's show marks 50 episodes of Step Brother Sports. Who would have thought we'd be here already this time, Sean, huh?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. We had Pat on, we were on the way to 50 not too long ago, but it's crazy to think, we were just talking about how, one of our first episodes, if not the first, was when I traveled to the draft at the Sphere, the NHL draft last year. And we just obviously came up on the draft again back in, I think it was in June. So it's been a year and we're at 50 episodes. So I think we've done a pretty good job pumping content out. And now we just have to get on Pat's level and start putting out stuff every day.
Speaking of Pat, so we have our guest of honor for tonight, and he's also been teaching us how to improve and hone our craft over time as well. But great source of inspiration and guidance for us. He's a real grinder himself, always putting out amazing content on his own podcast, Talking Buffalo. Hey, those latest chicken wing rankings are up on his Substack. Check those out, folks. But he was also, want to make sure we give him his flowers as well, integral in making sure MafiaCon can go off without a hitch for many of those other fellow podcasters that were there this past weekend. So again, please welcome back to the show, Patrick Moran.
It's great to be here, guys. Congratulations on 50 episodes. That is certainly a noticeable and notable milestone. It's not easy, and I'm sure you guys have found that out. And it feels like, I've been following you guys now for a while, and you're really starting to find your niche. You're finding your lane, and you guys are doing a great job. And I got to say something, though, because let's go back to MafiaCon, all right? And we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about, but I want to go back to MafiaCon last week. Couple things. The biggest thing is you were talking about the production. This is important because he might beat me up if I don't put this out there. But, so we get there in the morning, and I get there very early before any of the shows start, and they got all the gear there, but it's not completely organized. It's kind of a mash-up of different people trying to get everything together. And nothing was tested, and the audio was awful. Well, the audio was fine for podcasting, but the audio for going out to the audience that was ultimately going to be there live was awful. And it was not myself. It was Joe Miller, and I know Joe will fight me if I don't give him his flowers for that. But Joe Miller literally saved the day in terms of figuring out the right mix. And then Donnie Dreamboat from Trainwreck Sports went all the way back home and got the right microphones to be on stage. So for people who were at MafiaCon and they got to enjoy, whether it was your show, whether it was my show, or many of the other ones that were there live, they got to listen to it in real time. That was the making of Joe Miller and the guys from Trainwreck Sports. I helped on the video side and just kind of coordinate everything, but got to make sure I put that out there. But anyway, it was a lot of fun to meet you guys in person last week, and not just meet you guys, but we spent a good chunk of Saturday hanging out and shooting the shit. I appreciated you guys bringing up some beers when I was on with Tim Graham live, and maybe the funniest part of MafiaCon, the most ironic part, I should say, was after my show with Tim. Originally, we were going to grab a beer and we were going to walk around to all the vendors and check out all the areas, see all the stuff that was going on because there was so much going on. Well, you guys were there, so you know. And ended up being, we parked at a table that became the unofficial Labatt Blue Light beer station. And we never went anywhere. We stood at that table pretty much the entire day, and we're just drinking beers. And people were coming by, like Mookie Hawkins was there, John Fina, Sal Capaccio, some others they were coming in and out. But we never made that trek around Mafia Con. There was probably a lot of vendors and tables and stuff that I never saw because all of us guys were just sitting there putting away beers all day, which was awesome. Don't get me wrong. It was fun.
The cool kids table. Everybody wanted to come to our table and hang out.
That's what it turned into. It was a lot. Man, it was a lot of fun. It really was. It was a good time. But yeah, I planned on moving around and going to do a bunch of things. And we just got to drinking some beers and having conversations, having some laughs, having a good time. And it just turned into quite a day. Tim Graham's quite the character, isn't he? He's quite the guy.
He really is. He was just down to hang the whole time too, just with the rest of us. It was great.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys, man. It doesn't matter. You could be the biggest name in sports in Buffalo or somebody with 2 followers on social media. It doesn't matter. He will treat everybody just the same. He'll be just as friendly, or he'll come at you just the same too if you don't like you. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, but the whole experience was awesome. But Pat, what just to kind of circle back to now it being our milestone, because you've had a few awesome ones yourself now. But when we say thank you, we really do mean that from the bottom of our hearts. So, like, I know there's been plenty of times throughout like the last calendar year where I've asked you a few questions, and you honestly just given like some great feedback. You always gave some really thoughtful responses and guidance whenever I reached out to you. And we really wanted to say we appreciate it more than you possibly could know on here. So you also really gave the inspiration for marking a milestone episode for us, because you also make sure your own are properly celebrated, because you just crossed that 1,100 episode threshold. So congrats to you as well.
Amazing.
And again, we thought it would only be fitting to have you on as the guest. So one more time, we really want to thank you.
I'm honored, man. And like I said, it's been a lot of fun following the progression of your show and the comfort that I could see that you guys have now. You could see when you go back and you look at your first 15 shows and then you come back to today, and you probably sense a difference. You know what I mean? And 50 shows from now, when you guys get to 100, you're going to look back at 30, 40, 50 and see all the changes that have been made. But yeah, you guys are doing a great job. I'm very proud of you, man. It's really cool to see. And, you don't worry too much about the small things. You do this because, and I think this is a mistake that a lot of people who get into podcasting make, and ultimately it's why so many fail. And when I say fail, I mean fail as in they just don't want to do it anymore, is you got to have a passion for doing it. You got to really enjoy doing it, whether it's something you do just as hobby, whether it's part-time gig, whether maybe down the road someday it becomes a full-time gig, whatever it may be, you got to have that passion. That fire's got to burn to want to do it, because you're going to go through some tough times. You're going to go through some ruts. You're going to go through, a lot of peaks and valleys. You'll have some episodes that you'll be like, man, this was a great episode. We did everything right. This was a great conversation. We had a really good guest. You look at the numbers, and they stink. Or vice versa sometimes. It's just, there's no rhyme or reason. You're like, God, I didn't even like this show. This kind of felt like we mailed this in. Then you look the next day and the numbers are bam. It's just so unpredictable. So you just got to have that passion. Wanting to do it needs to be more important than anything else that you do. And you guys have really, you've really stepped it up in that capacity. Seeing you guys do a show live too. I would have thought you guys have been together doing this, this would be 5 years, not 500 episodes, not 50. And I mean that sincerely. And I'm not just blowing smoke up you guys' butt, man. But like when the live show that you guys did at Mafia Con with Mookie, it was entertaining, man. It was really good. You guys, maybe you weren't comfortable up there, but if you were faking it very well, if you weren't, because you guys looked very comfortable and in your element. So good job.
So thanks again, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
One more thing with Mafia Con. Now that you've done it both years, how would you say this will be the last point on the event as well? Because again, we had a great time there. How would you compare it after doing both of them now, year 1 to year 2, and what you'd like to see for year 3?
Wow, it was a night and day difference between year 1 and year 2. Let's start
AC,
there.
right? Some AC for you.
Yes, that's the biggest thing. The location. I don't remember the venue from Mafia Con 1 last year, but it was like kind of in a warehouse, sort of. It was an outside-inside thing, but no AC. It was the middle of July, just like this year, and it was really, really hot, just like this year, but there was no AC. So it was just very It was uncomfortable. But I remember going back to last year, having conversations with Dell, and it was year one. And he said, listen, I'm going to take everything from this first year, the good, the bad, and I'm going to learn from it, and we'll do bigger and we'll do better. So fast forward to this year, and he certainly did. This felt like the place to be. Like, this is, if you're a Bills fan, and a lot of Bills fans probably, they'll catch on in the next couple of years, but like, this is like a must-see thing. This is a must-do type of thing here in year two. There was just so many more people. It was bigger. It was better. It was nicer. I would have liked it more if we would have been drinking beer all day and we would have actually walked around and did more, because it was so much more to do. But yeah, man, it was just 90 day. They had a confessional van, so much more video stuff. They had a couple bars open, good food. It was a lot of fun. The only thing I would say going into year three, and this is being a little bit selfish, but if you were there, you would only know this if you were there, where we were located with the podcast itself, the stage. Again, having full audio, a really nice Videotron. I mean, it was Class A production, but it felt a little bit kind of like in left field, further away from where the action was at. I'd like to see next year, like if I had one suggestion to Dell, I would say, let's try to get the stage where all the podcasters and the shows are going to be a little more where the people are. Like, you almost either had to stumble upon where the stage was for the podcast, or you had to know and you specifically wanted to go see somebody. Like Dwayne Carter was on right before my show with Tim Graham, and people knew Dwayne Carter was going to be on. Well, I didn't know he was going to be on, but people apparently did, because that area was filled up pretty well for that. But aside from that, I would just say that was the only thing. The podcast, broadcasting location, if it was just a little more where everybody was, it would have been perfect. But yeah, man, things are looking up. It's a lot of fun. A couple thousand people at least were there, and I'm already looking forward to next year. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome, yeah. I mean, again, we could not say much more great things about it, but now we kind of want to just kind of circle into more hotter topics. Because again, like we said when we opened the show, training camp is here. We've done 2 days already. Sean, I'll let you get started.
Yeah, and Pat, you feel free to, if you want to plug. And well, you said you're going to be at camp coming up this week, I think. So that's awesome. But just kicking it off. So far, today was day 2. There's been everybody's been putting, interesting reports about how players are already looking on both sides of the ball. What's been your current favorite storyline of the team? I'm curious about. And we had Sal Majorana from the RDNC last week on. Yeah. And he stated that the defensive line position battle was most important to him, especially with so many new faces, free agent signings in the rookie class. And we've said on our show back at MafiaCon on Saturday that, for our money, the safety room and how that's going to shake out on the back end is the most fascinating. With obviously Cole Bishop coming into year 2, coming off of an injury plagued season. But, with that said, offensively or defensively, which position group in battles are going to interest you the most when you're there at camp and throughout the rest of the summer?
Well, it's a good question. I would tend to say the defensive line as well, because you don't know how it's going to play out yet. It's way too early. And I also want to preface this too. Camp being back is great. Seeing the players out there running around. I mean, the offseason is officially over. That's awesome. But we need to be careful. You can't put too much stock. First of all, you can't put too much stock in a training camp, period. And secondly, that's especially true when they don't have pads on yet. And that's especially true if you are following, say, the defensive line in those battles, because there's not even contact yet. You know what I mean? They haven't even put on the pads yet. So different story for that. In terms of a positional battle, I feel like a couple things are starting to be answered already after just 2 days. I am surprised. When it comes to safety, I went into this fully expecting a repeat of what last year was supposed to be. That last year, it was Cole Bishop, it was DeMar Hamlin, and it was Mike Edwards. And it was going to be an open competition, 3-way battle. I remember the first couple of days of camp, a different guy was with the ones originally to start defensive drills each day. But then Edwards got hurt. Cole Bishop got hurt pretty much. DeMar Hamlin, by default, was more or less handed that job because of the injuries. So fast forward to this year, I fully expected Cole Bishop to be the odds-on favorite, but a full-on competition between at least him and DeMar Hamlin and possibly Derek Forrest. But what we've seen so far through 2 days now, Cole Bishop got the start with the ones on day one, so I expected DeMar Hamlin to be the guy taking the majority of the first team reps on day two and see where it went from there. That wasn't the case, though, on day two, because, again, it was Cole Bishop who got the start. Now, DeMar Hamlin did run with the ones on some 7-on-7s, but far and away, Cole Bishop got the majority of the first team reps again. So it really appears after just 2 days that this is going to be Cole Bishop's job to lose, which, if he stays healthy, I don't think that's going to happen. So that's a position battle that might be getting closed off already a little bit before it even kind of got started. Obviously, the cornerback, too, is another position to keep our eye on. So far, it's been Trey White early on. Max Searson getting some run with the ones. I don't think that's expected. How that plays out over the next few weeks, again, when you start being able to get physical and, day one was all red zone stuff. Day two was a little more intermediate. They haven't really driven down the field. There hasn't been any long balls, things like that yet. So there's a lot of stuff that's not really played out. So to answer your question in a long-winded manner, nothing has happened really yet that is like, whoa, except for one thing that I will tell you about. And we'll go back to the defensive line. I've heard from multiple people that I trust a lot. I value their opinions. This rookie, Dan Walker, looks like he's going to be the real deal. And if he looks good in pads when they start doing drills with those Cyrus Torrence in front of him, with David Edwards in front of him, with Connor McGovern in front of him, and if he's winning those battles with contact, he could be playing a lot more and a lot sooner than a lot of people think.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that, too, because that was going to be my follow-up question from watching reports today, that he was getting some run with the ones. He might be playing next to Mr. Oliver, maybe unlock him with the big body in there. But like you said, no contact yet, no pads. But it is interesting. A guy that, in the fifth round pick, mid-round pick, a lot of people said he had the talent to go in the first round. So if they can coach him up, might have.
Brandon Beane said he would have been a first-round pick a year ago. He said if he would have came out last year, Brandon Beane said he probably would have been a first-round pick. I thought that was a little hyperbole, but based on what the early indications are, he's got a chance to play, man. He really does. So you could see a difference with these rookies already in camp, just the bodies, the size of them, and the way they move. This has been a team that's been very dependent on old journeyman type of backups over recent. Jordan Phillips, seems like they re-signed him every year at some point. Quentin Jefferson last year. It should be a significant upgrade up front on the defensive line. We'll see it play out more in the coming days, especially when the pads go on soon, but it's promising. And with the suspensions to two players, there's a lot that we don't know right now. And that part probably is one of the most exciting things. It's exciting when you watch something and you don't know how it's going to play out. So
absolutely.
Yeah, agree with all that, too. And sticking kind of with the defensive line here, Joey Bosa yesterday, he was interviewed after practice, and he even said it himself that this is the best he's felt in a long time, whether it was just for the fact that he was just enjoying the camaraderie with his teammates or just feeling healthy overall. With being more injury-free despite his little calf strain over the spring. But we all have seen how the Von Miller situation played out. It's actually kind of funny. I watched his opening press conference with Washington today. He spoke pretty highly of Buffalo, too, which was still nice. But anyway, with Joey Bosa, how important do you view him going into this season, and especially knowing today that it looked like they already took a measured approach on handling his snaps then? And so, again, comparing to like Von Miller's situation for when he signed a few years ago now to Bosa's, how do you view that playing out for the Bills?
Yeah, I talked with Matt Perino earlier, and he said he didn't even see him take a single team drill on day two, and it's by design, the start of his load management already. Well, he's a very important player for a lot of reasons, and, first and foremost, they signed him for January. And I hate saying that, though, because one of the things about fans, and I mean sometimes media and us as content creators too, that it kind of annoys me is acting like it's the Bills' birthright that they're going to win the AFC East, and like September and October and November don't matter. It's all about January. Well, the whole season matters. You got to win the division. You got to try to get home games. Got to try to compete for the number one overall seed. So the entire season matters. I like Joey Bosa a lot. And I'll tell you, I talked about this on my show yesterday. I typically don't put much stock into press conferences. They can be very vanilla and bland, and, they just say the right things. They know what they're doing. They've been coached. But there was a form of authenticity I felt when I was listening to Joey Bosa talk about being comfortable here in Buffalo and just talking about needing a fresh start and a change of scenery. And it wasn't so much a diss towards the Chargers organization. It was just about needing change in his life. And he mentioned how he's hung out with his teammates more in the last 6 weeks than he did his entire Chargers career. And he was with the Chargers for several years. So I found that very telling. I think he genuinely likes it here. I think he likes the lifestyle in Buffalo, Western New York. I think he believes in the culture. He keeps going back to saying how the guys want to win and he wants to win. He feels that same, that camaraderie with them. And I think that matters. I don't know how much you'll see from him early, but I'll say this. If he goes into week one, like the load management plan that they're doing right now, that keeps him fresh. How many reps does he need? He knows what to do. He knows how to defend the run. He knows how to get after the quarterback. Does he need to be out there every practice? Does he need to play a boatload of reps? No, he doesn't. So I'm fine with what they're doing. If he could get you Leonard Floyd type production, but be better against the run, which is what, Leonard Floyd was really good at getting after quarterback for the first 2/3 of the season 2 seasons ago. I think he had 9.5 sacks or something like that with the Bills. Bosa's like that, but he's a better run defender too. So he's going to be very important, and him staying healthy is going to be a very important aspect of the Bills, because in terms of proven pass rushers, they don't have a lot behind him.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably something to say that later on in the season, like you were also alluding to before, like in October and November, you're probably going to see a lot of veteran rest days for Joey Bosa, and it's honestly something that people shouldn't really be alarmed with, because again, they already said it themselves that, hey, like, we're going to manage his reps. We want to make sure he's ready for the crucial moments of the game, and ultimately have him be ready for January. But like you said before, it's not a guarantee. I mean, obviously, the Dolphins want to win just as much as the Bills do, even though they're going through a few tough times, it looks like, in their first couple of days. I mean, the Patriots, everybody is already talking about a lot of their changes done in this past offseason, whether it's their free agent additions, some of their draft picks, but they have a big uphill battle to climb, too. I mean, hell, the Jets today, they had an injury scare with Justin Fields, but hey, they're also wanting to do the same thing. They want to be able to knock out the Bills and be able to have that same level of success for themselves. So it's never going to be an easy task. I mean, not to mention the fact that some of the other teams in the way of, especially the teams coming to Highmark Stadium. I mean, you got the Ravens, you got the Chiefs, you got the Bengals, you have the Eagles. I mean, all those are going to be challenging games in and of themselves. And if the Bills don't handle their own business, like, while also maintaining their potential lead in the division, like, they got to still make sure they get to January 1st. So I completely agree with that take, Pat. Yeah,
I mean, look, what was Washington 2 years ago? They were picking second in the draft. I think they won 2 or 3 games. They made it to the NFC Championship last year. The year before that, Houston, second overall pick in the draft, and 1 year later, they're winning their division. They've been in the playoffs the last 2 years now. Teams come out of nowhere every single year. And no matter how good your team is, and no matter how much better you look on paper than everyone else in your division, you got to go out and you got to earn it. It's not given. And to Sean McDermott's credit, he's built a program here. They know that. They're not. We may take teams for granted. We may take the Jets for granted. We may take the Miami Dolphins lightly. Sean McDermott is not going to allow the Buffalo Bills and his team to do that. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. So we got friend of the show, Jim. He grew up around the Philadelphia area, so he's all about Bird Gang. So hey, good to see you again on there, Jim. But yeah, I mean, a lot to take in with Joey Bosa on there. But Sean, I know, wanted to ask you a little bit more on your film breakdowns you've been doing in the past, Pat.
Sure.
Yeah, Pat. So I know you've done breakdowns for Bills games in seasons past. Will you continue to do that for this season? And if so, are you going to change anything in your approach or how you will view film, I guess, in general?
Well, I won't be doing it as good as Cover One does it. So let's just start
not
there,
many
man. Those
people
guys,
do.
those guys are the
they're
pro.
another level.
Joe Biscaglia is really, really good at it as well. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be changing anything. I just, you know what I like, guys, what I enjoy about watching, say, an all 22 and going back and watching things sometimes 2 or 3 times. What I enjoy the most is this. You see a big play. James Cook will take a handoff, 49-yard touchdown. I love looking at what made that play come together. Who made the key block? Or conversely, a bad play, something that goes wrong. You see, well, James Cook, 49-yard touchdown. Well, he didn't do it by himself. It was because a couple things happened on that play. Or again, sometimes Josh Allen will throw an interception, which actually was not a lot last year, but, did he miss a read? There's just little things that I love to watch. Kick returns, special teams. I remember going back to the Frisco game, that Sunday night game last year, and the Bills dominated that game, and they won handily. But the one thing they were struggling on was special teams. And I remember watching on Sunday night, they gave up 2 long returns to, I think Deebo Samuel had both of them.
Yep.
I couldn't wait to see, well, whose fault was it? And when I went back and I watched it like 2 or 3 times, it was Jalen Virgil that specific game. He was a gunner on the right side, and he screwed up twice, and you could see it. And there's always, the tape doesn't lie. I don't know that I'm going to do something or many things differently. I like to find out the why in the big plays in terms of getting an education, like I said, from watching a film. That's not really me. That's those guys, like I said. That's the Eric Turner and the Anthony Prohaska and those Cover One guys that do that stuff. And some others too, so well. So I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know if I'll be doing anything differently, but I'll certainly continue to do it because it's fun, and I just think it makes for interesting content, quite frankly. People want to know, behind the biggest plays of the game, some of the other stuff that happened that made those plays possible. So I don't know about anything different, but I'm certainly looking forward to doing more of it. Yeah,
so are we. And I'll tell you this, just to your point, I know Chris is going to probably bring up the Sabres in just a second, but
unfortunately,
I know from, sitting up in like the press box or even, games up in the 300 section, in recent years, I've said a lot like close to the ice, for Sabres and even for like Tampa Bay Lightning games as well.
Mm-hmm.
You see the play develop. When you're up higher, you see the breakout. So yeah, to your point on football, it's nice to be able to see key blocks, receivers or pass catchers winning downfield, get, clean releases. See all that is pretty cool, and I think it's the same way in hockey too.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man, on the football side, like the Bills' biggest problem with offense, and they didn't have a lot of problems at all, but if there was an issue with the offense, it would be the inability for receivers to separate, which hopefully they've done enough this offseason between Palmer and Elijah Moore, and hopefully a healthier Dalton Kincaid, that won't be as much of an issue this year. But I remember watching all 22, and it'd be like, so many times it's like, God, how is Josh Allen making these plays? Nobody's open. Like, literally, you go through and you'd watch the same play 4 times, and you would focus on one receiver each time. Like, nobody is getting open. So many times these receivers were covered, and it didn't feel like, honestly, the Bills were a very tough team to defend. And I know that sounds crazy because they were literally an historically good offense, but it was kind of well, we're going to do this, and you ain't going to stop it. Whether it was running the football or whether it was Josh Allen holding the ball and making plays with his legs or throwing out of the pocket, it's like it didn't really surprise you. It's just like you knew it was coming, but you can't stop it anyway kind of deals. Oh, it's just like I said. Yeah, you're right. It's just fascinating being able to see things from that up high angle for sure.
Yeah. And like Sean was saying, now we unfortunately have to do a little shift to the Sabres again because we are on the Hockey Podcast Network. We are obligated again. Also, it's just still one of our first loves on there. Not to say that we don't love the Bills just as much, but still, like hockey was the reason why we got this started. But anyway, you've rightfully been critical of the Sabres, to say the least. You did a really good cop, bad cop episode. I believe it was last week. You did it with Steve Bermel. Again, it was really interesting and how, like, you did things such as pointing out how Jack Quinn maybe shouldn't necessarily be viewed as highly as he should. You had also other great guests like Joe Yurden, who we've also had on in the past. You had Chad DeDominicis on as well. You guys are going on real deep dives of the team. So the two of us obviously felt, of course, that the team still really should have done more to add another top six winger, among other things. However, the most recent episode of The Embedded that premiered this past weekend, it really indicated that the team was high on the acquisition of Josh Doan, which they got back in the JJ Peterka trade. And also, again, the aforementioned Jack Quinn, of course, too. And also they're using that hope strategy again. I mean, let's hope that's for something better this time around, but they hope he takes some big steps. And they're also getting pretty confident in the fact that Michael Kesselring himself and Alex Lyon will be key pieces. I mean, because again, let's also be real here. They're the only pieces that were kind of major this off season. And then another thing to kind of point out in the embedded clip on there was the fact that Jarmo Kekalainen's presence was pretty well on display in the episode. But friend of the show, obviously you're familiar with, Derek Kramer on WGR. He's also attempting to try and, as well as he can, to take a glass half full approach, which we can respect because that's not an easy task in and of itself. Now, from your take on this, Pat, do you find anything redeeming as far as like qualities of the team going into next season? Were there any particular moves that you liked, or do you just see more despair waiting for everybody, and then ultimately year 15 just getting added to the tally?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. Let me start by saying this. There was a clear lack of urgency, it felt like, for a team that had missed the playoffs 14 consecutive years, a team that has, forget about firings at this point, because now you got a general manager going in the final year of his contract. You got a head coach in the final year of his contract. You got a coaching staff that pretty much has been intact now for 4 years in assistance. And you can argue reasonably so that maybe you liked the big trade and you liked what they did with Byram, but you can make a very reasonable argument that what they've done has been lateral. Maybe some people like JJ Peterka and they would not have made that trade. Others said, yeah, I'll make that trade, but it's lateral. You got better on defense. You got worse on offense. I mean, that's not debatable. That's obvious. It's very obvious. So there's been a lack of urgency. You would think that this was a team that felt like either A, they were already a playoff team, or B, they're right there and they just need to tweak things a little bit. They're retooling a little bit, which is absolutely asinine because this is a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 14 years. So I'll start there. The lack of urgency bothers me a lot. To the embedded part, okay? Now, I'm going to be honest. I have not watched the new embedded yet. I do know people directly involved with embedded, and it is a very detail-oriented and fun for the fan. A very fun look at a team. The Bills, the Sabres, obviously different vibes and tones. The Bills, very successful in recent years. The Sabres, definitely not. But at the end of the day, they edit those to make whatever they want you to think about a team. Like Cole Bishop. You would think last year that Cole Bishop was the only guy in the second round that the Bills were interested in. There could have been 15 guys that they would have drafted, and had they drafted them, I promise you, they had footage that ended up on the cutting room floor of, we want this guy. We want to maneuver up for this guy. We want to do that. So embedded, while entertaining and a nice intimate look at the team, you can't take away too much from that, like what they like or what they don't like. I will say this about Doan, though. So last week I had Matt Perino and Matthew Fairburn on the show. I got Matt every now and then. He covers the Sabres, of course, for The Athletic, but every now and then I suck him into talking some Bills stuff. So I did that because he covered the Bills before. We were talking, and this was off the air. I wish it would have been on the air. I could tell you because it's not nothing bad that he said, but he talked to a lot of hockey people, and they love every person he loves who loves Shane Doan. Loves him. Thinks he's going to be an awesome fit in this organization. Good locker room guy, hard worker, busts his ass, very mature for his age. They think that he is going to help this hockey team. And Michael Kesselring is a steady second-line defenseman, that's good. And even perhaps more importantly, if he ends up being that key that unlocks Owen Power's full potential because he's playing with Kesselring, that makes that trade look a lot better because not only do you have a solid, steady Michael Kesselring, but now you got that unlocked version that you've been waiting for of Owen Power who could play with him, and it's a perfect match. So that also makes Bo Byram staying here and playing with Dahlin a better deal as well because it's like, oh, man, you could trade Byram. I never wanted to trade Byram, guys, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I knew if the Sabres traded him, he was going to be the best player in the deal. The only way I would have wanted to trade Byram is if it would have been Byram in another piece. Hellenius, Oslin, a pick, Rosine, you name it, whoever, and gotten the best player in the deal back. But that's not how Kevin Adams operates. It would have been Byram for two lesser players, and that's not what I wanted. And if all he does is play well with Dahlin, well, guess what? Play him with Dahlin because now you could do that because now you got Power and Kesselring. So I didn't hate that trade. Plus, JG Paterka didn't want to be here. That matters. So I don't know, man. Do I feel better about this team? Do I feel worse? Am I optimistic? No, I'm not optimistic because this team doesn't get any benefit of the doubt anymore. Why should they? Why should you give them the benefit of the doubt? I'm asking you a question. I'm legit. Like, what about this team, fellas, gives you the feeling that they deserve any benefit of the doubt?
I mean, you pose a great question there. I mean, the only benefit of the doubt that they could really get is, like you were saying, they are better, you could say, on paper defensively.
Sure.
I mean,
more well-rounded, I think, would be the...
Sure. But, I mean, like with the defensive pairings, like even on the bottom pairing, like a lot of people are still really sour on Samuelson because we're definitely in that camp as well. I know you
Count
are
me
too.
in.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, insert your adjective for him here, and we'll negative adjective for him here, and we'll definitely say that about him. But I mean, the fact that they still haven't replaced that top six winger, that's still pretty egregious to us, at least. I mean, you're taking away over 50 goals scored by one player in the past two seasons, and they're still not going to show that they have like any inclination of trying to add more. I mean, granted, it was a very dud of a free agency period for the NHL as a whole. So, I mean, it wasn't really going to be anything super exciting anyway. And towards the Sabres, I mean, but they still could have made plenty of moves. They still really could at this point in time if they maybe package, whether it's draft picks or some of the prospects they have in the prospect pool, because they could go after some really good RFAs that are still available in there, which I still think is just something Kevin Adams, he really needs to find like a way to manage that trigger finger because he's entirely too slow with trying to make a really timely decision. I mean, the 13-game winless streak just goes to say that, I mean, he just didn't have the stones or cojones, whatever you want to say about it, that he just didn't have the wherewithal to make the right decision at the right time. Now,
and that got him ridiculed, Chris. And not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but I'm telling you, I've heard from people that I trust that him not doing anything throughout that entire winless streak got him ridiculed, not even just in his own building, but around the league, or literally around the league. Now, I'm not talking media. I'm talking about hockey people around the league.
And he rightfully should have, because, I mean, not only was he raked through the coals like among the fan base, I mean, yeah, he heard his name, I think, from day one of the season last year, like getting booed or fire Kevin, or even there was a couple times, I think there was the Utah game I think our parents went to. They said they were starting to say sell the team, which is, again, that goes to show you like rock bottom can continue to get further and further lower. So, I mean, I guess you could say, no, we really aren't optimistic after just kind of talking about it a little bit further. I mean, Sean, do you have anything different?
Well, I think, and I actually have another question for you, Pat, too.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the move. I think, having a player that was turning into more or less a cancer in the locker room and didn't want to be here, they got what I think was fair value in that JJ deal. And upon some of the film study that I did, I think Kesselring is going to be, like you mentioned, a great partner for Owen Power. I think that was the number one thing that they were looking at. But if you go back to the embedded episode and you have a chance to watch it, one thing I found interesting is allegedly, and we talked about it, how they're dressing things up potentially, but the nugget that was in there was Utah's general manager was hard pressed. He did not want to move Doan as part of the trade at first. So there's a little nugget where they mentioned that in there.
Sure. When
I go back and I look at him, and all the things that you said are right, including the fact that he has the bloodlines of his dad playing. Josh Doan, by the way. His dad
I know.
was.
I realized
I
that
don't
after I
know.
said it like the
That's
third
okay.
time. I'm like, hold on, man. I'm not even saying the right.
Easy to confuse them because I think the Sabres once upon a time also tried to pursue Shane Doan. So that makes sense.
It's like his dad's not
right.
playing no more. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a good player, and I think we're going to see him on the second unit power play. He's going to take over a similar role of what Sammy Reinhart did. He's going to be the net front guy, maybe on the first unit, but he's definitely going to be a second unit guy. He has a little bit of a flair for some offensive ability, and he's got some really interesting metrics for 5-on-5 play, where when he's on the ice, he's extremely good. Like his Corsi for like some of these different numbers, he has elite numbers. So there's more to be unlocked, and I think he's going to get an opportunity. So I think they were hesitant to part with him. So I think that says a lot. But I wanted to ask you just kind of as a follow-up question to what you guys kind of just were talking about. At this point, there is people still out there, not really so much in free agency. There's been a couple rumors of the guy from Columbus who was a former first-round pick. I forget his name right now. Chinikov could be available. Yarmo was there basically, when they had drafted him in the first round. But I want to know, Pat, do you think, I'm of I guess a thought process of maybe Lindy Ruff in this iteration of the team, he's happy, almost like a 99 team where it just got a lot of just pieces that are going to kind of work together and maybe just will overachieve. And then again, it's hard to think that that's a smart bet. But do you think that they will make another move, or do you think they're just done and we're confident with this is how we're going into the season?
I think Kevin Adams is going to continue to say that he's open to making moves, and I'm not going to rule it out. But if I was a betting man, I'd say what this team is right now is going to be essentially what you see on opening night. And I want to ask you a question, and I don't say this with sarcasm. This is a legitimate question and not meant to be I'm not pushing back at anything you just said about Doan, but all those metrics you talked about and the ability and the potential for him to play on the second team power play and everything you just said, right?
Yeah.
What has he done in this league in terms of scoring? His career high, 51 games, 7 goals. And I'm not saying he can't become what you're saying he could become, okay? I want to be clear on that. I'm not saying I don't like Doan, okay? And I'm not saying he can't be that. I'm telling you, has he done it? What has he done? Which is, I think at this point, guys, my thing about, let's intertwine the Bills and the Sabres here briefly here, and I'll make this quick. But this is what I'm talking about, the difference between these two franchises. Let's go back to the Bills. And we'll say somebody like, all right, let's put it this way. The Bills have an expectation that players are going to work out. They expect things to work out. They expect their offense to be good. They expect their defense to be good. One of the few exceptions on the Bills, I think, at this point, because of his career, his age, would be DeQuan Jones. I think the Bills hope that they can get one more serviceable, decent to solid year out of him. I don't know that that's their expectation. I think that's their hope. But all in all, it's about expectation.
You have to also think it's his last ride in general.
His play slipped a little bit last year for sure.
Yeah, it definitely did. He's, before he got hurt in London, he was playing at an incredible level, and he just hasn't been the same player since. He's 33 years old. I think it's fair to say, objectively, the Bills hope they can get another decent year out of him. I don't know that the Bills expect it. Like, they expect Matt Milano to be an impact player again. I don't know that they expect DeQuan Jones. I say that because you get to the Sabres, and it just becomes a series of hope. I hope. Yeah. I hope Doan becomes what you just described he could be. I hope Michael Kesselring can unlock Owen Power. I hope that Zach Benson, who had 10 goals as a young rookie last year, could be a top 6 guy and double that output, that he could put 20 bucks in the net. Right. I hope that in the second half of the year, Jack Quinn looking better and he's more removed from his major injury. I hope he could pick up most of the slack that we're leaving behind with J.J. Peterka, even though Jack Quinn's career high in goals is 15. That's what I'm saying. He hasn't done it before. I hope Yuri Kulik can become a consistent, solid for a 82-game season top 6 forward. I hope Josh Norris, who hasn't played a full season in 4 years, that he could be there and give you at least 65 to 70 games. And I could keep going on. I hope UPL is the same goalie that he was 2 years ago and not what he was last year, where it was the whole make a save type of season for him. It just, I hear stuff about other players and what they could be, and I'm like, where? I haven't seen it. And again, once you lose that benefit of the doubt, it's just, it just gets harder and harder to believe. That's all. I guess that's what I'm arriving at.
And then the funny thing of all of that is a player on the team itself, Jason Zucker, quoted, "Hope is a shitty strategy."
Yeah, it is. And it feels like that's what it is. No urgency. Same coaches. You said Lindy Ruff earlier. Does he feel that way? Yeah, I'm sure he has confidence in himself. Why wouldn't he? He's a successful coach for a long time. But I don't buy, Kevin Adams said shortly before the draft, because they were asking about the coaches, Lindy, he basically was inferring that if Lindy didn't want any of those guys there, none of them would be there. I don't believe that. I refuse to believe that a team that stunk on special teams, had crappy goaltending play, no coaching changes, no assistant coaches at all added, none. I don't buy it. No firings at all. You're not going to convince me that Lindy Ruff is signed off and Lindy Ruff, this is the coaching staff that he wants. He inherited that coaching staff last year, and that's still his coaching staff a full year later, and I just don't buy that that's a Lindy Ruff call. I'm pretty confident that comes from higher up with the guy who's signing the checks.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. But to kind of make it a little bit more positive, I think Sean wanted to kind of shift things over, surprisingly, to the Bandits.
Yeah, I want to talk quick Bandits for a second. Up until now, so the three-peat of championships, which is amazing in any sport to do, they haven't really got as much love and coverage as either the aforementioned Bills or Sabres. But with these most recent championship win, do you think that will start to maybe change perceptions and viewership at all here in Western New York?
That's a great question, and God, I hope so. And I'll start with myself. I've called myself out. I think it's embarrassing for podcasts, for the Buffalo News, for TV outlets, WGR, the radio. Again, shows that cover multiple sports like myself. I can't blast. I'm not going to criticize Joe Marino. He's locked on Bills. He's not locked on Bandits. You know what I mean? But shows like mine, where's the shine? Where's the talk about? There's only a couple out there. Major props. There's a show called Buffalo Sports Collective. They do great Bandits coverage, but not a lot of people have really listened to them, which is a shame because they're really good. But to answer your question, man, I watched that championship game, and I'm a bandwagon hopper. I didn't watch them at all this year. I was like, hey, go Bandits, and stuff like that, but I didn't watch them. I couldn't name 4 guys on that team. But I watched that game 3, that deciding championship game, and that was one of the most fun days I've had of watching any sport event in so long. I was so locked in and so into it, and it felt good to be a fan and win, and man, it was like, why am I not talking about this team more often? Their fan base is so rabid. They're awesome. The Bandits fans are awesome, man. I was downtown for that after, and there was a sea of Bandits gear all over the place. It was really cool. They're the best team in Buffalo by a mile. Three-peat, man. I hope that they start getting the coverage they deserve. Will they? I don't know. They will on Talking Buffalo. I can only speak for Talking Buffalo, but I don't know. Unfortunately, I just think it's more of the same. Don't care from a media perspective during the season and then jump on the bandwagon when they're inevitably in the playoffs. But that's a really good question, man. I really wish you guys should start talking about the Bandits more. Let's go. Be better in the next 50, man. Start talking about the Bandits.
Right.
I've got plenty of guys I went to college with that live and breathe and die by lacrosse. So I think that'd be an easy way to get them in there. So here's looking at you, Josh Uline and Mike Minarich. So there you go. So
you got a cousin too. Cousin Ricky loves them too.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, but they're Rochester Nighthawks fans because that's where they're living right now. So they got they're going through some tougher times right now because they're looking for a potentially new ownership out that way. So
it's such an exciting sport, guys, isn't it? I mean, watching the game, actually paying attention and watching it, it's exciting, man. It's a mile a minute. It really is. It's a fun sport to watch.
Yeah, not only did the Bandits like win that championship, they dominated in that win, and just the trick shot goals and everything. I mean, everything you wanted to see in like a championship win for like your better Jim showing up again. Step Bandits podcast.
There you go, man. That championship game, folks, fellas, that game was like that was the equivalent. If you were old enough to be a Bills fan in the Super Bowl era, that Bandits Game 3 championship win was the equivalent of the first AFC championship game where the Bills were up 41-3 at halftime against the Raiders, and you spent halftime and the entire second half just partying because you knew the game was over, you knew Buffalo won, and you knew the Bills were going to their first Super Bowl. It was that kind of feeling, that Bandits game. You knew the whole second half it was over. It was just wild. It was cool.
That's awesome. And hey, another one from Jim. Lax is life. So for all you Lax bros out there, hey, we'll talk more Bandits. Sign us up. Yeah. But anyway, to kind of circle back more to some things you've been doing lately, Pat, Sean and I recently enjoyed your 5th annual Podcasters Roundtable with aforementioned Joe Marino. I had Bruce Snellen of Bruce Exclusive. We enjoyed our time with Bruce as well when he came on our show. And also Greg Thompson at Cover One. But aside from the really great advice that each of you doled out to the listeners and other content creators throughout that episode and throughout that pod, what goes into preparing for a show like that, knowing that the actual content will be almost like nothing about like the Bills or the Sabres or anything related to some of your primary content?
I think there's a lot of people who listen to Talking Buffalo, and especially when I do those shows. That's the 5th time in a row or 5th year in a row I've been able to get with those guys, which, by the way, is a blessing in itself. I mean, first and foremost, for all of us to be healthy and alive for 5 years and still all doing this at various, in different ways. Joe Marino, this is his life. This is his full-time job. This is what he does for a living. This is his career. Greg Thompson, myself, we have full-time jobs, but we do this kind of semi-full-time as well. I do 5 shows a week. Greg's involved with a lot of stuff at Cover One. And then Bruce, who's a mythical character, of course, but yeah, spoiler alert, he has a very busy, full life. Let's just put it that way. Look, a lot of people out there, I enjoy podcasting. I love sports talk. I love Bills talk, obviously. I talk Buffalo. That's what the show's literally called. But I just enjoy podcasting. I enjoy everything about it. I enjoy the planning part of it, doing the research, the equipment, the gear. I'm kind of a little bit of a techie nerd, so to speak. I like editing. I like putting everything. It's kind of like if you're a musician, it's, to me, at least anyway, it's kind of like if you're into music, it's like writing a song, or if you're an artist, it's like drawing a painting every day. You know what I mean? And it's it never gets boring to me, and it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of bad advice out there too. I see a lot of people because, look, you know this, guys. We're in an era where everybody's got a podcast now. I mean, just look at the Buffalo market. We don't even got to look around, but just the Buffalo market alone. Name me somebody in the Buffalo sports media that doesn't have a podcast or isn't part of a podcast now. Good luck, because you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle to find somebody who's not at least involved in some way with a podcast. But I don't know, man. It's just, I think it's important to give people sound advice. I get asked a lot. I get asked a hell of a lot more about podcasting or wing takes than I do, coming on tonight and talking Bills and Sabres with you guys, which is fun. Don't get me wrong, but I get asked about podcasting a lot. I don't know. I feel comfortable offering advice. I've been doing it for 7.5 years now, just my show alone. Like you said, I'm up over 1,100 episodes now, 5 shows a week. I feel confident and comfortable enough to be able to give people advice, but I also don't think I know it all. So that's when I combine somebody with Joe Marino, Greg and Bruce, who have all had a lot of success. They're very well-respected people in the Bills content creation community. And quite frankly, it's fun. When it comes to the Bills, it's such a saturated market. If you're going to just sit there and talk about the Bills from the first minute to the last minute, there's 30 podcasts out there that do it. And probably half of them are going to do it better. I think the key, as you guys are growing, for an example, and here I go being the professor again or whatever. But yeah. people, as they get to know you and see more episodes and they get to know you a little more, your quirks, your couple little bit of life nuggets that you're talking about, a little life story here and there that you throw in. They get to know your personality. They want to know more about you. They're going to be more bought in when you're talking, whatever it is that you're talking about. Ultimately, of course, Bills and Sabres in your case, but it's a personality-driven thing that we do right now. It's if you're I'm trying to think of a good person. Joe Biscaglia. He's so well respected. He's so good. Joe could say, "Hi, I'm Joe. I'm going to talk about the Bills for 49 minutes. Goodbye." Everyone's going to listen because it's Joe Biscaglia. You know what I mean? But most people, they get to know you and your personalities. Joe Marino, he's a smart dude, but people have gotten to know him and they trust him. He's consistent. He does what he says he's going to do. He has the same opening. He has the same tone. And you get to know his personality and his quirks. And because of that, he just becomes the popular kind of Buffalo sports, the bar right now, quite frankly, for Buffalo sports podcasting, or Buffalo Bills podcasting, I should say anyway. So, yeah, man, it's really cool to get to talk to those guys, just get to know them, pick their brains a little bit, because I'm still learning. I might pass a little wisdom on here and there, but trust me when I tell you, I'm still learning. Bruce Nolan, it's his cadence. Joe Marino, it's his work ethic. Greg, it's his consistency and his ability with numbers. It almost pisses me off when it comes to the salary cap and all these things that he knows. There's always something you can learn, you could take away from people. And I don't know, it's just a good conversation. And for whatever reason, those shows do great. A lot of people are interested in what they have to say, even if they're not podcasters.
Yeah, I mean, we thoroughly enjoyed it. I know Sean and I each reached out to you separately on those. So again, we keep it coming. We can't wait for the 6th annual episode and next summer or during the NFL offseason. But kind of sticking with your show on that, Pat. Like we've already talked about plenty, you're a real warrior. You go 5 days a week with this all year long. And you said 7.5 years running, which is great. Again, we hope to see it continue to go. But for what things you have for the future, I mean, one, do you have anything freshly cooking coming up for people to look forward to? And two, is there anything you're looking to do? I mean, kind of alluding to what we'd already talked about, for how you want to maybe evolve the show a little bit more, or maybe not necessarily change things, but think of ways that you could possibly do more for your audience.
Well, that's a great question. It's difficult to find ways to continue to grow. I'll say that much. You get to a level, and it can get difficult to get to that next level. What I'd like to do with Talking Buffalo is my favorite shows, and I would say most of my guests have been media people, and I think they would tell you this too if you asked them. What separated Talking Buffalo for a long time from a lot of other shows is I would have someone on, and it wasn't, let me throw a name out. Sal Capaccio, okay? I would have Sal Capaccio on, and he's the Bills sideline beat reporter. He works at WGR. Well, guess how many minutes we would spend talking about the Bills? Maybe 5 minutes. It was about him, his life, his career. It was an opportunity for fans of him to know his story, and I've always enjoyed doing those. It got to a point, though, doing all these shows, where I had everybody on, and I told their life story, and it was like, well, we can't do this again. I just had you on. We're going to talk about you going to Syracuse again for a half hour. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to find ways to evolve. But what I like doing, what I want to get back to even more, are those, I take pride in being a pretty good conversationalist. And at least on my show, I'm blabbing, because I'm getting it all in tonight, folks. Because guess what? When I have guests on my show, they do all the talking, and I listen. I think what I'm good at is listening. And I think that's kind of what, I'll listen to something, and it'll spark something in my mind, and it'll kind of get that situation, that conversation rolling a certain type of way. So I think just doing more conversational stuff, and maybe so much less, here's the Bills, here's my takeaway from the Bills training camp practice, or, the Bills lost, here's my 10 biggest takeaways, here's my film study on Wednesdays. I like having conversations with people about stuff beyond just Bills and Sabres. Maybe I'll start getting some business people in Buffalo on the show, do-gooders, things like that. Hopefully that will grow. I do have a couple things in the oven in terms of the Bills and Sabres. I can't talk about it quite yet because it hasn't happened yet, but I'm looking to be able to get a new level of access to be able to tell some stories as well. So we'll see how that works out. That's a process that's ongoing. But look, I already do five shows a day or 5 shows a week. I don't know how much more. Right. I don't know how much more I'm going to be able to do. It really, because I do have a full-time job and I do this show 5 days a week. And also, spoiler alert, I also have a part-time gig that I do 2 nights a week. Cool family, dude. Not a good wife, somebody who doesn't get mad. She goes out and she does her own thing too, so it kind of works for both of us. But, tonight's a perfect example. It's like, I'm going to do something tonight. Well, no, I got to do a show, and then I'm doing another show with somebody and stuff like that. But you just kind of, you get used to it. It's a sacrifice and a commitment, and you get used to it. But like I said at the beginning of the show too, it's a passion. And if you don't have the passion, it's not going to work. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what your audience is. You won't last if you don't truly enjoy doing this, because we ain't getting rich, fellas. ain't nobody. It's eventually you can pay a couple bills, stuff like that, but ain't nobody getting rich being a podcaster. Let's just put it that way, unless you're Joe Rogan.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But kind of keeping in the vein of having some fun parts and unsports related things, we started a new segment in the last month or so. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of like a familiar thing. You might think it's more Family Guy related, because we're calling it the Grind Our Gears segment, and it's things that have just really been pissing you off. And if you can't think of anything that's really pissing you off, think of something that's been really great that you've been enjoying lately. But one thing I kind of want to go with that's been absolutely grinding my gears. I mean, it's kind of cliche, but at the same time, airline travel has been the bane of my existence in the last month or so, because this past weekend to get to Buffalo for MafiaCon, my flight was delayed, which forced me to have to drive. Because the previous month, unfortunately, our grandfather passed away. So we had to deal with a lot of airline nonsense with that, because on the way home from Buffalo, after a day after the service, I get my flight to JFK, which in and of itself, that airport sucks. But I was in JFK airport for over 12 freaking hours. And yes, Jim, we are on the Grind My Gears segment. So, but anyway, I was in JFK airport for 12 freaking hours. Not a single soul knew what was going on. Anytime I went to go ask the person from Delta, which was my airline at that point in time, it was just a matter of them coming up with a new excuse every single time. And then I just had enough. There was me and another person that were going to Richmond. We saw DC was literally a terminal across the hallway there. We're like, let's go to DC. We're going to get a rental car and we're just going to go back. Worked out, got myself back there. But then as soon as I saw my flight being delayed, and so I saw that this past Friday, I was just like, nope, not dealing with this again. I'm going to drive. And it's anybody that has a connecting flight in this time, this era right now, just try and find a way to get direct flight. I mean, it's awful. Richmond, it's not that far, 8-9 hour drive. I don't know how that there's no direct flight from Richmond to Buffalo. I mean, it's nonsense. That is one thing that's absolutely grinding my gears. Pat, anything on your mind that you want to lay some hate on? We'd love to hear. Well,
it's not my answer, but to your point, I'm going to regret this. I've been very fortunate in my life. As far as I know, I've only had one nightmare travel incident. And I know a lot of people have had so many of them. And I had one from Tampa going to Buffalo. I lived in Florida for 5.5 years, about a decade or so ago. But anyway, one year around Christmas time, we were flying home to Buffalo and our flight got delayed and then ultimately canceled. I think we ended up renting a car. We did. We rented a car and we drove to Buffalo, and that shit sucked. But I've been, that aside, I've never had any real travel issue ever. I've been maybe an hour delay is the most I've ever had. I know I'm going to regret and jinx myself saying that.
Right.
All right. Something that grinds my gears. Good question. I got one. I live in Buffalo, and it really grinds my gears when we're at this time of year and people bitch about how hot it is and that it's too hot, that they don't want to go out. They want to stay in the house in the air conditioning. I'm like, are you kidding? I had a party at my house a couple weeks ago. Had about 20, 25 people here. And it was hot as shit out, okay? And I got a nice little outside patio, a yard, no pool, but I bought 2 kiddie pools from Walgreens, which was actually kind of funny. So throw in there, dip yourself in there. But anyway, it was hot as hell out. And then I had the central air blasted in the inside. It was like 2 parties. Like half the people just, it's summer, man. I'm going to be outside no matter what. We're going to play cornhole. We're going to grill hot dogs. We're going to pound Busch Lights. And then the other people are in the house where the air conditioning is blasting. And I'm going to have like a $10,000 electric bill next month. But whatever. That's neither here nor there. But I don't like when people bitch about it being too hot in the summer when you live in Buffalo, okay? It gets to December or into January, and you literally go 3 weeks without a drop of sunshine. The sky is gray every single day, and it's either snow or it's cold or it's windy or it's all of it. And it feels like it's never going to end. And then you get to March and it's St. Patrick's Day and you want to wear your nice new green t-shirt that you bought, but you can't because you gotta layer up because you want to go on a pub crawl and it's freezing outside. And then that stretches into April and then it stretches into May. I had a graduation party for my daughter in May. She graduated college. Couldn't have it outside. It had to be inside because it was just too damn cold near the end of May. So when it gets to be June, or especially July and August, I don't give a shit. If it's 85, 90 degrees every single day for 2 months and it's hot and it's humid, soak it up, man. Soak it up because you live in Buffalo and you're not going to get it anywhere else. Now, if you're in Florida and it's always sunshine, different story. But when you get sunshine about 15 or 20% of your days and you're complaining about it being too hot, there you go. That's some stuff that really grinds my gears.
Like that. And Jim right here, he says, praise be to Busch Lattes,
Yes.
he says.
Yes.
So I meant to ask you, because I know you had quite the rant about this with your ordeal with Tops, I remember. I've never had a Busch Light apple. I mean, is it any good? Truly.
It is. It's good. Here's the issue. I suffer from I got COPD and it causes heartburn. And as much as I love Busch Light apples because they're really tasty and they do taste like apple, man, but they get a little bit too sweet for me. So after maybe 4 beers, I started to get a little bit of heartburn. So I can't buy a 12-pack and pound them, but they're tasty and I love them. And it was worth every mile that I had to drive to go get them. No thanks to Tops Markets, 6150 South Park Avenue in Hamburg, worst Tops Market in the United States.
He had that address in the chamber, folks.
I told the guy, look, so I'm not going to tell the whole story again, but long story short, I did, because customer service on the phone told me they had this Tops Busch or Busch Light apple at Tops. The customer service told me they would put it away for me. I told them, I said, I'm driving a half hour to your store. I don't live near you. And they said, yes. And I got there and they didn't have it. They were wrong. That was a mistake. What pissed me off was the manager giving me a fake, sorry. It couldn't even, if he would have just said, I'm really sorry, it was a miscommunication. She didn't know that she had to keep it, whatever. Any kind of explanation, that would have been the end of it. But the guy, the way he said sorry to me so condescendingly, I said to myself, I walked out there, first I yelled, this is the worst Tops I've ever seen. And then I said to myself, I am going to bury, if you're, this is a wrestling term, you bury somebody. I'm going to bury this Tops Market at 6150 South Park Avenue in Hamburg every single chance I get for as long as I have a platform. Like, I'm not, I said, the guy, you probably didn't realize, that I have a podcast and that I have a decent little reach. I was like, you're going to pay for this. And they are, because I continue to bury them. The worst customer service I've ever got. You know what? I forgot about that. You're lucky I didn't think of this when you asked me about the grind my gears a few minutes ago, because that's way worse than it being hot in Buffalo and people bitching about it.
Let the hate flow through you,
yes,
Pat.
I do.
Let the hate flow through you. Sean, what about you?
I actually don't have any. I took a flight today, no delays, and nobody got up and tried to rush to the front of the plane. That's been one of my biggest grind my gear segments in the past. So no real complaints today for me.
Well, there you go. Yeah, the airplane's a good one too. That doesn't make any sense. Like, what's the point? You're going to see it every flight you're ever on. Somebody's going to do it. Just, I don't know. You kind of, I guess maybe if you expect it, it doesn't bother you as much.
Yeah. But Pat, this has been wonderful. As we're wrapping things up, obviously many people know your platform, but feel free to give yourself a plug here.
All right, talking Buffalo. Every time someone asks me that on another show, I always go into it. I'll start plugging someone else's show. I'll be like, make sure you listen to the Bruce Exclusive Thursdays at Bruce Exclusive. No, talking Buffalo, Monday through Friday. Sometimes bonus episodes on Saturday. I do 1 or 2 solo shows per week, but generally I have a guest, and that'll be no different. Especially getting into football season now. Off season's been fun. We got to do a lot of fun things, but now it's Bills season, and that's what the people want, and getting into Sabres seasons. But I have a lot of guests from the world of sports media, a lot of former Buffalo Bills players come on the show. Most of them are in studio, but I do go out to some bars, Imperial Pizza, Sunny Reds, a couple other spots, and we do a lot of live shows. But yeah, Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, or we're on YouTube as well. Talking Buffalo, follow me on Twitter. Is it still Twitter? Or is it X? I don't know, whatever the hell it's called.
We call it Twitter.
Yeah, it's Twitter to me. It's always going to be Twitter. At Patrick Moran TB.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Folks, again, thanks for always tuning in. And again, Pat, thank you so much, not only for all your guidance and help throughout our time and growing as a show, but again, thank you for the time here.
Oh, I really appreciate it. A lot of fun being on. Nice little something to do here on a Thursday night for when we're taping anyway. And congratulations on 50. You guys are doing a great job. I thought you guys really showed out well in MafiaCon, represented well. I enjoyed your show with Mookie, and I'm looking forward to the next 50.
Hey, appreciate it. And we hope to give you some solid 50 episodes coming down the pipeline here, folks. But we'll be back next week as we discuss more training camp battles, whether there's, hopefully there's no major injuries. I mean, I'm hopefully knocking on every piece of wood out here. We got a little bit of audio going on Sean's side of things, but I know he's probably working on some things on his end. But either way, we're going to do maybe more of a deeper dive on stuff for the Sabres offseason. And hey, you never know who we have coming down on the show next. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, folks. Have a good one, and let's go Buffalo.
Let's go Buffalo.